So what you're saying about being in the room with you being in the room with Lisa. Now, if the law of 2 feet or the law of mobility, the law of whatever, however many, like blah blah blah, that the open space law, the one law, if that was in effect in that training,
yes,
you know,
yes, absolutely. And because there was this desire for, and I don't want to sound like petty, but I needed my imagination to be sparked, right? I needed something to tingle inside me to say, oh, this is new. That's a fresh idea. That is a way I've never perceived this before. And unfortunately, what was happening is I was experiencing, I remember this concept. I've used this before. I see how that was applied. I understand what you're saying. I was getting, mental, we were connecting mentally, but it wasn't doing anything for my fire and my excitement and my passion. And to your point, and what we're really talking about here is, what is the value of dedicated time in a certification, in a training, in a, whatever you want to call it, mastermind group? What is the value? And the value is, I think, when human spark touches human spark and something ignites. If you're just transferring information, that could be done via email, via book, via blog.
Anyway, yeah, or via a series of prompts with chat George Paul Thomas, Charlie George Paul Thomas.
And we're having to re-examine, right? I think that's causing us to kind of re-examine maybe what it means to have human connection and to have that human spark touch human spark, because it's almost like we just assumed, well, it's just language and it's just sounding like a human. Just people talking is real connection. But what we're discovering now is, as a computer can simulate people talking, then is that really real connection, right? So you kind of have this Turing test kind of a scenario of like, well, if I can't tell it's a computer, maybe it's as good as a human. But what I would actually argue is that the method of connection, if it's purely just text, or now we're getting some synthesized text and voice, right? We're getting to that next level. But if it's purely just conveying information without emotion, right? And without that energy that we know from training or from running a workshop, if you show up to train or run a workshop and you're tired, you're mentally drained, you're carrying the weight of all the stuff that happened at home, and you log in and you're just, that's not going to be as effective a meeting, a training, or whatever, as if, you're in the right mental space. You had a good 10 minutes beforehand. You reviewed your information. You were able to really get centered on what it is you're wanting to provide. And you show up as the best version of yourself and you communicate. It's a different experience altogether. And so I guess my argument is that, when we look to the future as artificial conversation becomes more commonplace and maybe less distinguishable from human conversation, right? I think that it highlights for me the need for us to do what only humans can do, which is really connect with one another on an emotional, engaged, spark to spark, human to human connection. I think we're going to rediscover how valuable that is when it's no longer requires another human to have what appears to be a human conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we are not, and I'm sure between deep fakes, ChatGPT, and voice synthesis, and those generations of that, and the iteration of that, and the opponent processing to make that better and better and better and better. We will have the possibility of that. The Turing test now becomes it's a baseline.
Yes.
That we just assume that unless there's some other, so this is the other point I wanted to make. So it's just assuming that that whatever's happening in this screen in front of you could potentially be completely computer generated.
Yes.
And so that to me led to a thought of well, okay, well, what does that mean for those carbonites, right? Us, with the carbon-based folks.
Yeah.
So I thought of this phrase that kind of rang the other day. It's like, well, I want to be a proprietor of a space that serves 100% certified organic human conversation.
Yes. Yes.
And just to come in knowing that that's what you're going to get, that it's not, maybe there might be a room, if you're alone, you want to have a silicon conversation. Hey, cool. That's fine. Sure. You do that over there in this corner, but this room, this place, this is human beings in moments of surprise.
Right. And recognizing, I think, the value of that. It's been almost too easy. Well, let's back up, right? 10 years, and everybody went into the workplace, and that was normal. Remote work wasn't as much a thing. You could find niche pockets, but it wasn't much a thing. And so human interaction was generally assumed, right? Every day you were going to interact with a various number of human beings, and you were going to have meaningful, supposedly, interactions. Hi, how you doing? They recognize you, recognize them, right? Unless you lived in a cubicle farm with no soul, and then unfortunately you were stuck there. But notice what happened, right? So along comes social media, and we replace a lot of that just kind of casual chatting with, well, I'm liking your images and photos, and I'm maybe posting about my life, so you feel like you're seeing into my life, but we're not talking, right? Social media, that's one. Number two, major changes in the workplace. You have a lot more isolation happens. And then ultimately leading up to COVID, the ultimate isolation, where even if you were going to communicate with someone, you had to do it through, a pane of glass or some way that was safety. So you encounter massive disruptions to the assumed way that we connect as humans, right? And of course we adapt, and we found Zoom, and we found other kinds of medium to connect on. But now we're introducing these ideas. I see AI as like the next evolution of like social media, in that AI can generate content like your friends used to could generate content. But if you're going to social media looking for genuine human connections, you will find yourself disappointed. And maybe you won't even be able to explain why, but you'll find this like hollowness. And I think if people engage in the synthetic because it's easy, because they know the chat bots will never be mean to them, because it's safe. If people trade real human interaction for synthetic human interaction as the technology evolves, I think you're going to find the same but worse as what happened when people traded real going out with your friends and sharing life experiences for liking their Instagram and Facebook and Twitter comments or pictures or images. It's going to be worse. It's going to be, I'm sending more language into the universe than ever, but I feel emptier inside. And it's because you've removed yourself one more step from actual human interaction. That's my prediction, at least, because I see the allure of it. I see it's just so easy to talk to a synthetic that's not judging me, that's just going to let me, take my time. Actually, let me back up a step. It reminds me of this. I don't know if you've heard of or spent any time on Khan Academy. So Khan Academy is an online learning platform that started with a guy who was, advanced in his career and really good at math. And he had a cousin or nephew across the country that was struggling in math. So he said, let me help you out. And he made a little YouTube video with a little stylus, and he showed him the basic math concepts. He posted on YouTube so his little nephew could understand the concepts better. Well, fast forward, that caught on. People love the channel. He now has an entire academy, not only covering math, but also covering all this other stuff. But one of the things, as I was listening to an interview with him, fascinated me. He said, when someone is learning via watching a video, if they don't get something right away, they can pause, rewind, and watch the video again without feeling dumb. And what he was citing was, when someone in a classroom setting, a teacher explains a concept, 2 + 2 = 4. If you don't get it, The only way to pause and rewind in real life is to say, I'm sorry, I don't understand, which is a admission of not being perfect, right? Of failing, which we know that's where we really can learn from. But there's a social stigma on that feeling like the one who doesn't get it. So the same way that Khan recognized that using YouTube provided a safer way for people to interact, and so they favor that because it doesn't make them feel maybe as threatened, or they can hit repeat as many times as they want. I think Chat GPT, I think you're going to have your image generating AIs, your video generating AIs. I think people are going to use those for the safety of, if I do something, the AI is not going to judge me like a human would judge me. If I drew a picture and I posted my hand-drawn picture and someone said, I think, you know, you made the legs on that elephant look like tree trunks, and you go, oh man, I was trying to draw a puppy, right? Like, it's kind of one of those things of we are so fragile sometimes. Our egos, our emotions are so fragile that we can't withstand the thought of the slightest criticism without realizing that it's in that criticism, it's in that feedback, it's in that connecting with a person and being okay being seen as imperfect that we really grow as individuals. That's how we grow. So by avoiding the uncomfortable, it'd be like saying, I want to get strong, but I don't want to have to go to the gym because that's uncomfortable and sweaty. So I don't want to do any hard work, but I really want to be strong. It's like, that's not an option. You don't get the opportunity to be strong if you don't work your muscles, and that's hard and strenuous and sometimes uncomfortable.
Oh my goodness. And this,
throwing stuff at you.
Yeah. So the theme that's coming back at me, and what I wrote down, and that this idea of the fear. Okay, so that fear. So this idea of the kid in the classroom. What is the feeling in their system when they know they don't know the answer,
right?
But why don't they raise their hand?
Right.
What are they fearing? The fear of shame. They're fearing, and not just shame, not just that kind of one-on-one shame, like I'm ashamed, but it is public shaming.
Yes.
It is othering, it is outgrouping. So if I raise my hand and say, I'm not as smart as the rest of these people in this room, that's putting myself out there to receive those finger points from somebody, or not the finger points, but the side eyes and all that stuff.
Yes. And
that where is the incentive for a learner to risk public shaming?
Right. Listen, I just was talking to someone yesterday. I finished recently the book Love and Work by Marcus Buckingham. Fantastic book. He talks about how we should use our love to help us define where we're going to be the best at work. But he has a whole section on education. And he really talks about, he goes, look, education was built in the industrial era as a sorting mechanism, right? We're going to sort the people who are going to be white collar over here, blue collar over there. We're going to sort people. And so in a way, that shame and that stigma of I don't know comes from failing the expectations of a system that's merely looking to sort. You are what we consider smart, and you are what we consider not smart. We know through lots of examples, especially of great visionaries, that sorting system, especially in our current age, doesn't work. There are plenty of people who have changed our world who were either marginalized or judged or told they weren't smart by the system, only to go on to change our world, whether through innovation or creativity or whatever their method was. So, understanding that the system is built for when you raise your hand to say, there's somebody who doesn't get it, let's move them down a rung. Like, that's a lot of pressure, especially from a young age, but we're trained all the way from as early as you enter school, go up into the workplace. What's a performance review? Well, we have to sort out our performers, and we have our high performers, and we have our low performers. And some systems even say, if you're low enough, we always look at that low performers as the ones we put on a plan or we get rid of. And so you're still being sorted. And so you're always being measured by a system, and it makes it really hard to raise your hand and say, I'm sorry, I don't understand that, when that is the very skill that we need to latch our growth and our learning onto so we can develop as people.
Yeah. What is the purpose of the performance evaluation and review? And there again, not only being one, there are so many, again, depending on the organization and the structure of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, the idea of individual performance, am I good enough? How good am I? And who gets to say how good I am? Well, you do, because you're in a position of authority. And why are you in this position of authority? What is the legitimacy of your authority over me?
Yes.
Is it just because you've been here long enough and you've got that, and now, since I put in the time, I have the title to say that you are good, you are bad, you're on the up and up, or you're on the out.
Yes.
And what are those things about? This is again the need, or there's a sense of status.
Yes.
Right. So there's where am I in the hierarchy, and what kind of hierarchy? Which one? Is it a social hierarchy of relationship? Is it a formal hierarchy of levels of authority and that, or is it a different kind of hierarchy? So this is about organizational theory and organizational design, and this is why I got so tuned in and tuned on to the Beta Codex stuff, is because that's all about these 12 principles that are 201. They're mirror images of the industrial age hierarchical system, right? So but yeah, why what's the point of the sort? Why were people sorted anyway? This is Taylor. I mean, and again, it's more complicated than you think, right? Because scientific management, in that age of Ford and when Taylor did his thing, it's like, there was a lot about F.W. Taylor that was about respect for the human being, right? In that, but it ended up that the idea of thinkers versus doers became managers versus workers, versus we get the money and have the power, and you just, your hands, you're not brains. We're the brains, you're the hands. And that's just, and now all the hands, well, in the hands and the other organs that we've been talking about, they're now silicon. Right. So the only thing left for us as humans is the brains, and it means not just the brains, but it's the humanity. It's the heart. And spirit.
It's the heart. Exactly. Because I'll tell you, as I think about what the future holds as more, of the what we consider kind of the heavy lifting of our era that is going to pass over to artificial intelligence, bots, systems, scanning cards, and all these new processes. When you've encountered a person who sees you, who cares, who is present, and who is in full ownership of who they are, and through that recognizes the full value of who you are. And my mind just jumps to, it's a typical example, I think it's been used a lot of times, but the Walmart greeter, right? And I use that because it's pretty ubiquitous, it's all over the place. And for that job, you can either show up and be what is my job? My job is to look at people when they come in. I have to say, hello, welcome to Walmart, and then look at people as they go out and see if I need to check their cart and look at their receipt. Like, I'm doing my job. If that's all you're doing, we can replace you with, a camera with a smart AI, looking at people, looking at their faces, see if they have intent, looking at their clothing to see if they have bulges, whatever, right? That can be replaced. But what can't be replaced? And I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I've walked into a Walmart one time, and when you're going in, you've got your goal. I'm here to shop. I'm here to get my thing, get out to the door. And I was interrupted by a person who recognized me, and with a clear, confident voice, "Good morning. How are you doing, sir? It's great to see you." Whoa, what just happened? I got shocked out of my plan. And there was a person whose job was exactly, the title and the description was exactly the same as the robotic person or the robot acting like a person. But this was a real person. And they greeted me warmly. They looked me in the eye and recognized me. They shared energy with me. Talk about two human sparks connecting. They arrested my attention for a second as I entered the store. It was only for a second, because then I continued on with my shopping. But you know what? I looked forward to getting to see them again on the way out. I smiled as I saw them. "Hey, thanks so much." And they gave me a giant smile in return. "You have a great day." And I walked out of there feeling seen. See, that's the difference that can never be automated with an artificial intelligent eye. And honestly, with our disengaged workforce, hello, welcome, can I see your receipt? We've got some people who are working as if they're robots. They're going to be replaced by robots, or by a person who learns to demonstrate human connection and care. Because if you can do that, no matter what your job is, you can add exponentially more value in today's workplace.
Oh my goodness gracious. I just imagining what it might have felt. Yeah, we don't go out to shop anymore. We get Instacart and Amazon. So
bring it to the door. Yes.
So the intention of I haven't experienced that, but it's so interesting. Being human at this now, it's a choice.
Yes. Yes. It's a choice. It wasn't before. It was just assumed. I'm a human, you're a human, we do human things. Now it's a choice. That is exactly the essence of what we're talking about. Yep. And when you make that choice, here's what's amazing. You become your best self, and you help draw out of others their best selves when you make that choice. Now, if you don't make that choice, if you just, I have to go to work, I have to go be a machine. Okay, if you go to work and act like a machine, won't be long before you can be replaced by one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's a choice. Yes. So then let me ask you this. As we discuss in this space, what can people who see that distinction, not everyone sees that distinction, but the people who do, how can we help the next generation of humans entering the workforce, finding their space? How can we help them understand that they can't show up to the workplace with the same briefcase of emotional skills and abilities that their parents showed up with, right? Their parents went to work with a certain level of, here's my tools. How do we make sure the next generation who's showing up has and is aware of the tools and what's necessary to not just be another cog in the great machine of industry, but to be a person making a difference at whatever your job is, wherever your job is?
So the question becomes, So you and I, when you and I have, when our carbon has evaporated into the beautiful ball of dirt, and our spirit has flown into the quantum, um, what is it? What do we do now? So when that moment happens, when you and I aren't here, because we are witnesses of this great transition to
Absolutely.
what, and this is, we're I want to go. I want to go somewhere else with it, but that about the edge, and
Yes.
that we are on the edge. This moment, this now is that we are on the edge between what was
Yes.
this industrial age world,
Yes.
and that schism happened, right? Whether it was COVID, whether it, what, any number of these factors
Yep.
of Trump, blah, Ukraine, COVID, don't, it created this schism that now is a decision point. And
Absolutely.
this is the time to choose to be human, because if you don't choose, those the AI is not going to get worse.
No.
And no matter, so this is like that endless thing there. So in this moment, so choose to be human. How might we, as those who I would say, there's so my mantra that has stayed with me is like, it is with humble grace and breathless awe that I stand in reverence of the beautiful mystery of the human spirit.
Wow.
So to be, so if I, okay, stick with that, right? So how might I be that in a way that others might also revere the human spirit and act in that way?
Right.
Because so, and what are the systems and structures and activities that will draw folks to say, all right, let's embrace our humanity in the human places, because there's a sense of regenerative wellness, and that what does it mean to maintain and grow and be healthy human beings as carbon-based life forms, in a world that of where the infrastructure and substrate is silicon and digital and electrical kind of, feeding us this. So the advice that comes from the educational institutions, because the educational institutions were born of the industrial age to be factories of knowledge pellets. And so chomp on your knowledge pellets and come out, and that you are now full of knowledge. You've consumed this many knowledge pellets. And it's like Pac-Man.
Yep.
And so, but the folks who live in the pellet production factory aren't, well, again, I don't want to be unfair to those in the educational profession, because I know a lot of people there, and good that have their feet in both worlds.
Yes.
But what kind of work is there to do for human beings in this world, when almost everything in maintenance and of the natural world could potentially be automated based on a near infinite amount of data and information, and some kind of intelligence created of that, to manage that condition. So I teach people to be human. I mean, what is that? what does that mean? And you can't. And this is like, oh, okay. So one of the books that I am now, as I re-embrace my musicianship and being a musician in the world, and kind of, live more musically. What that means is And a book I read as part of this process that the coach that I'm working with is this book by Victor Wooten. Do you know, if you ever, you know Victor Wooten, do you know who he is? So he's a bass player. He played with a band, Bell Fleck and Flecktones, blah, blah, blah. But he's a super, super accomplished musician.
Yeah.
And the book's called The Music Lesson. And the teacher in the book is kind of like this mystical character, and it's like, he's a teacher, but I can't say. And Victor asked, well, what can you teach me? I can't teach you anything. I can only show you. I can show you, and then if you choose to learn, then that's it. So it's so this idea, and that was a long way around to saying that an industrial age education has been for throwing stuff at it. It's the training mindset, throw enough information and feed me more. But now it's I think our job as those who have witnessed and are witnessing this transition is to shine a light as brightly as possible and with as much energy as we have to say that it is most important for you to be human, to listen, to show attention, to care, to be in presence with people in this moment. Like right now, we are having this moment, and this moment will never ever exist again. It's recorded, and so whoever's watching this now, but you who I see now are watching this, that your experience now, I will have no idea what it is. But this is unique, and this is what it's all about. These moments that you and I have and will continue to have. So
well, and what's so interesting is I think people still to this day consume content, right? And I consume content, you consume content, we read books, we watch webinars, podcasts, blogs, whatever, however you consume your content. But there is something captivating about watching content with passion, right? Where it's not just really great content. It's content that was created with excitement and honestly, I guess we could say with humanity, right? It was created by a person really pouring themselves into it, not just copying and pasting or gathering and compiling, but pouring themselves into something. And I think that's the content, and I'll use the word inspires us when we see, we have these mirror neurons inside of us, and it's amazing how they work. When we see someone doing something, when we observe a conversation, when we observe a performance, we have this mental like, oh, it's almost like I'm feeling. That's why when we watch an event, the Super Bowl just ended a couple weeks ago, when we watch an event and we relate ourselves to one of those teams, we feel the joys and the sorrow because our mirror neurons are firing and we're getting all kinds of like, wow, it's almost like I won or lost the Super Bowl, right? And obviously no one watching played, but there were plenty of screaming fans both in the stadium and not there. Why were they screaming? Because they connected with what was happening. People pouring themselves into an event. And I think that when we look at the grand scheme of content, as we go forward, there will be less, I believe, as content becomes more plentiful with synthetically generated means, there will be less interest in both historical and synthetically generated content that is purely just someone capturing information. And what will become valuable and what will be a premium is information that people have poured themselves into. And here's what's fascinating. There's a really great book. I forget the author. It's called The Radical Price of Free. And he talks about how free is changing our economy and how there's freemium models. And he wrote it years ago. And he talks about the different impacts that free has. And he quotes in there someone, and I forget who he quotes, but he says essentially generic, common information wants to be free. If it's mass produced, the video, when you generate from our conversation, the video, the mass produced, easily distributed, that information wants to be free. What wants to be expensive is the scarce. And I would argue one-on-one conversations, by the very nature of it, takes my time and your time. Time is the most scarce resource that we have. No one's getting any more time. You have the amount of time you have. That's it. So if you're using your time to have a conversation with someone, by the nature of that exchange, it's a scarce resource, and that's valuable. And how much more so if a person pours themselves into what they're creating in the moment, right? It increases the value. And I think we're going to see more of that valuing. I value this because it's not mass produced, because it's not synthetically generated, because it's not just rubber stamped. It's something that was made with passion and with a purpose. And ultimately, if it can be made to speak to me directly, and that's where I think people are going to get, they're going to get swayed by the fact when you talk to a synthetic, large language model, it appears like the conversation you're having with it is just for you, right? It gives you the feeling of that synthetic conversation is specialized to your exact question, your exact need. It is very personalized. And so therefore, if we use this whole scarcity free thing, it feels like, oh, this is a very scarce resource. But it's really not, because it's being synthetically generated. It's being automatically created. And so in the same way that the promise of social media was that you can maintain friendships with 1,000+ people simply by liking, posting regularly, commenting occasionally, that is false. That is a myth. You cannot. We know Dunbar's number. You cannot maintain relationships as I would define a relationship. You cannot maintain relationship with over 1,000 people. But that was the promise of social media. I think the promise of AI is you can be the one who's specialized and you get a custom, answer. I don't know if you've tried this. You can actually tell these current language models, talk to me like a personal coach. Talk to me like a counselor. Talk to me like and feel, oh, I feel like I'm getting very personalized attention. But personalized attention of what, right? Ones and zeros in a large language model? We need human attention. We need a human to recognize us when we walk into Walmart and say, I see you and you matter. A computer saying I see you and you matter doesn't mean as much and never will.
No.
Because people have the ultimate scarce resource, which is our time. And if I spend my time seeing and talking to you, I'm showing you you're valuable in my estimation, because I'm spending the scarcest resource I have investing in you. That's why coaching, mentoring, one-on-ones should be the most powerful human connections we have. In my opinion. I'm talking a lot. I'm so sorry.
No, this is the exact perfect point of a conversation like this is to hear you be free with it.
Yeah.
And I will come back at you and say there is one more even more valuable than time.
Tell me.
Is attention.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can spend time together and you will have committed to this window of time, but if I am not engaged with you and I am not seeing you, and this is not an intimate moment where we are communicating and attempting to understand one another, and connect, and that it's so, and that's the attention is, so there's time, there's attention, and then what happens with that attention Is there understanding? Is there openness? Am I letting you in?
Yes.
Intimacy. And
Yes.
this is the whole Stephen Covey thing. It's not intimacy, into me,
Yes.
see
Yes.
into me. And that
Yes.
once I am open and see and I allow you to see into me, and you pay the attention to me and look,
Yes.
then what I share and how we are being, then that can create, art. And
Yes.
that's the music that, to
Yes.
me, yeah, that's
And
that's what it's about.
we're exceptionally good at knowing if someone else is engaging in the conversation, if we have their attention. And I'm reminded of the study, right, of the cell phone. And they did a study of people having conversations, and they said, just put your cell phone on the table, right? And see what, and the people talking to someone whose cell phone was just on the table, like that, in their minds, you're not really present. They didn't feel like the person was present, engaging. Like, there's so many distractions all around us, and they're becoming more and more. Being able to take the time to sit and really, we, as coaches, we talk about level 3 listening, right? Really getting in to the space with the other person and really tuning in to everything that's happening. There is a valuable transfer of energy when that happens. Again, talking about our sparks connecting as people, I think it's enabled the easiest when that happens. So maybe the skill that's going to be the most required is, how do we defend against the urgent, the loud, the notifications, the distractions, the calendar, the disruptions, the fires, all the mental noise that we carry, and enable more moments like this, more moments where people can connect fully with one another, just like, in a way, I connected with that Walmart greeter, but doing it, I mean, if it's great to connect in 10 seconds, how much greater is it connect in 10 minutes or 30 or an hour, right? Real human connection, the law of 2 feet applies. If you're really connecting, you're not gonna leave. Why? Because something valuable is happening in that moment. There's value there. I'm not going to leave. If someone's really seeing me and really cares, they're not trying to sell me something, they're not trying to change my mind on it, something, they're not trying to make a point. If they really care and we're having a connection, I'm happy to stay there for as long as I possibly can.
Oh, so totally in with that. So I'm just now reaching back out into the world and having one-on-one meetings, having coffee with a few folks. I've had coffee with 2 people. One friend of mine, we've had coffee 3 times, I think, so 3 times so far. It's fantastic and wonderful. And the second person, he came to see me when I was in the hospital. He introduced me to the Alto Carolinas group here. So this person has a deep place in my heart as a friend of mine.
Yes.
And just this past Saturday morning, we finally got to go to have coffee together at the local McDonald's. Actually, it's funny, who meets at McDonald's, but It was fantastic. So we said, at 9 o'clock, I put an hour on the calendar. Who knows? We stayed for 5 hours.
Wow.
We were just being human together for 5 hours, and that, and I what is that worth? What is that worth? It's like you can't buy that. You can't. It is priceless. You can't buy it.
Yes. And I think that there is a book that I heard about, but I can take the lesson without remembering what the title of the book is. But when people begin to become more aware of their mortality and how close, right? That it's not long, I'm close. What memories and what experiences do they value? And never is it me and my money. I got to spend a lot of time looking at my checking account. I reconciled all my money and I counted it 3 times. It's never I went and did this thing and worked really hard and I put my nose to the grindstone and stayed up late in my office. It's family, it's friends, it's relationships, because those, I think, again, someone seeing us and recognizing the value that's inside of us is a critical part to feeling acceptable as a person, to feeling like someone actually sees me and likes me and values me and is willing to spend their time with me. I mean, that, it's supposed to happen in families. I know that, there's a lot of family scenarios, not always the case. It's supposed to be loving families. If not families, I think people need social groups and connections where they have friends and but with COVID and other things, many of those social groups have gone. I wouldn't look to the workplace for deep, caring relationships, but they can happen there. But all of these have been disrupted in modern times, right? Family, social groups and gatherings, and the workplace, all of those have been disruptive. So I think it goes back to the point you made, being human is a choice. And if we want to really create value in our lifetime for ourselves and for others, we have to make a choice to not only put ourselves in the place to be seen and to be accepted, but to put ourselves in the place to spend time with others and to see them and to accept them. That used to be obvious. Rewind 150 years, you're on a farm. Who do you spend all your time with? Your family. What do you do? There's no TV, there's no social media, there's no computers. You talk all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward a little bit, there's strong cities and communities. And, we didn't have the sprawl and the virtual that we have now. And so everything, you had your tight-knit group that you would have a barbecue with, you would spend time with on the weekends, whatever. All those things have been disrupted. It's now an intentional choice is required. And I think, can we teach people the value of that choice? Here's the beautiful part. I think if people can observe, so maybe watching a video like this, they can observe us connecting and say, oh, there's something there. I want to go have that with someone. So I think if they can observe it, or if they can be, I don't know if it's coaching or mentoring or training, but if you can show someone, try this. You're feeling depressed, you're feeling down, you're feeling hopeless, you're feeling lost, you're feeling isolated, you're feeling like you don't matter. Try this experiment.
Yeah.
Find the person that you have a connection with and go do coffee with them start for 10 minutes. Go do 10 minutes. And your job is to sit there and listen and connect as a human. I think we'll have more valuable connections, more humanity, more people living life to the full and enabling others to do the same.
Absolutely. It's so wonderful. I think this is a natural place to just stop the recording. So thank you. This has been marvelous.
Great conversation. Thank you so much.